Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Danielle. This is From the Table, the Are You Listening series on bargaining updates. Today, we have a few folks with us from the bargaining session after the December 6th action. Can you all introduce yourselves?
Hey, I'm Todd Wolfson. I'm a faculty member in journalism and media studies and general vice president of Rutgers, AAUP-AFT.
Hi, I'm Sarah DeGeorgis. I'm a PhD student in public policy in Camden. I'm on the bargaining committee.
Hi, I'm Maria Garth. I'm a PhD candidate in art history in New Brunswick and a member of the bargaining team.
Today was the December 6th action where we protested outside of the BOG. And following that, we had a bargaining session at our usual time. It was one of our small sessions. So it was a smaller group of folks that were present for that. We started with some responses to our economic proposal. Todd, did you want to start first about what the economic proposal looked like as far as full-time faculty?
Sure, happy to. So I'll say at the outset that we proposed this in May of 2022, and it took management and the Office of University Labor Relations over 6 months to respond to our proposal, even though other unions and units in university got the exact same economics response 3 or 4 months ago. So it seems clear to me that they purposely didn't give us an economic response and sat on one for a very long time. And then they finally did give us an economic response after the action on December 6th, which also seems purposeful. And the response that we got from them is insulting, completely insulting. We've seen workers who are organizing across the country winning really important gains in their salaries in this moment of historic inflation, And we saw rail workers who are still, that's still not, I guess that is worked out and not in the way I would support, but nonetheless, rail workers are getting 24% raise over 5 years. In their most recent contract, we saw faculty at Oregon University get a 5% raise on January 1st of 2022. Our offer for raises was to defer every one of our raises by 6 months over 4 years. So all our raises would start on January 1st as opposed to July 1st. So we lose, in effect, 6, 12, 8, 24 months of raises, right? 6 months each year, where later our raise would go up. And they gave us an offer of 2.5%, 2%, 2%, 2%. So year one's 2.5% raise, year two is 2% raise, year three is 2% raise, year four is 2% raise. That's 8.5% over 4 years, which is outpaced by inflation in this calendar year. Our members are suffering. They are having to make decisions about paying the light bill, and all of our bank accounts and salaries have been cut, and it's been a pay reduction because of inflation. And the offer from management is a deep pay cut, and it's insulting. And we're not happy about it. I'm certainly not happy about it. And so that's what they offer. That's where the state of play is. We will respond to them, and we will put back an offer on the table that it both dignifies the work did for this university through the pandemic and continue to do for this university, and make sure that we, as the workers in this university, don't go backwards during inflation. And I'll just make one other point here and then kick it to Sarah and Maria, which is we shouldn't forget that the university gained $300 million in a moment when they had forecasted that they were going to have massive losses. They gained $300 million. And so now, again, they're going to say they're going to have massive losses. There's no reason to trust them. And even if they were going to have losses, they can go into the massive reserves that they just gained. And so they have the money to pay us.
Sarah and Maria, do you want to talk about a little bit more specifics on what that looks like for grads, that offer, such as it was?
Yeah, ours starts at 30,000 something, which is much lower than we're asking for. In fact, it's barely over what we're making right now. So we asked them where they got these numbers, and they said, oh, the Big Ten. We looked at the other Big Ten schools, and so we had based ours on a living wage. So we asked them, have you looked at the living wage in these places where the big 10 are? But also, like, do you understand what a living wage is? It's not like a lot of money. It's literally like subsistence wage, like just over poverty. So they once again asked us a bunch of questions about the living wage calculator, how it's calculated, what it includes. It's just ridiculous that they spend so much time questioning that we need a living wage.
Yeah, I remember the first time we introduced this, and it's based on the MIT calculator. If anyone listening is unfamiliar, it's something you can look up, and it's by zip code. And they were really looking for whatever holes they could possibly poke in the idea of a living wage calculator. And I think it's pretty difficult to poke a hole in it when you're like, no, this is MIT, right? Like, this is an MIT produced list based on what it actually costs to live, to house yourself, to meet basic human needs. So can you clarify, because I think I didn't ask, what our proposed raise was that they were responding to with the just over 30,000 for grads?
Yeah, we start at 37,150. That was our starting wage, which is honestly low anyway.
Right. Still
because
below the MIT calculator for the area, which I think is around 42, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And it's, it would be higher in Newark, because it's closer to New York. But yeah, I mean, because they've questioned on this us on this so much, I've like gone through the entire data dictionary of the living wage calculator, and I know exactly how they calculated this. And it like literally is just barely what you need to not be on government assistance. So yeah, it's nothing extra. Management thinks that the tuition remission can somehow be calculated, worked into the living wage calculations, is also just proof that they have no idea.
Right. Yeah. To explain that a little bit more, management said that that we should be considering our tuition remission as part of our salary. And so we should be considering that in the calculations of what we're actually paid. Which, Maria, you had a really great response to.
So in presenting their proposal, management sort of provided their justification for some of their numbers, and their justification for the low salary that they offered graduate workers is that, one, that they looked at other Big Ten universities, which we again don't think is actually comparable. And then they also disparaged our proposal and said that our proposal is based on Manhattan universities like Columbia, which we had to clarify that in fact it is not. It's based on the living wage. And then they also said, well, your compensation is actually the tuition remission and health insurance. And a tuition remission, for those who don't know, is like the waiver for tuition that graduate workers get in exchange for working at the university. So we don't have to pay tuition if we are on an appointment from the university. So just to be clear, tuition remission is not a form of compensation because we can't use it to pay rent. It's not something that we report on our taxes. In fact, we never see that number. The graduate tuition that they charge us and then waive is a completely made up number, in the sense that it exists on a spreadsheet and it's not actually money that they need. It's just a number that they make up in order to have something to charge us. But any sort of income or profit that they make from graduate tuition is just profit for them. They don't actually need that money to run the university. And then for the point about health insurance, while it's true that they pay into our health insurance plans, as most employers do, we are actually one of the cheapest groups to insure. Graduate workers cost the university much less than other groups. And we know that they only pay a small percentage into our health insurance contributions. So again, those are really not a significant part of our income that we make.
Yeah, and just to add insult to injury, with the current salary, what they proposed is a salary increase of 2.5%. Our insurance is currently increasing 3%, that we would then have to take out of contributions from our own pay. So So with that in mind, presumably no one, I know no one was happy with the offers that they gave us or the justifications for them of like vacillating between how much Manhattan universities cost to live in versus why they should be weighing things against Big Ten schools in Ohio, all of those sort of logics at the base there. Do you guys want to talk a little about how we responded in the meeting and what happened from there?
So I think we responded the way, we were waiting 6 months for an economic response. 6 months from them. They have a team of lawyers. They could have given us an economic response anytime in the last 6 months. They chose not to because they knew it was inflammatory with our membership. So let's just be clear about that. They waited and waited and waited because that's what they do in their attempt to depress our membership and demoralize our campaign to win fair and just wages. And so they waited it's even 6.5 months now. They waited 6.5 months. We saw this proposal. We probably could have guessed on July what they were going to offer us. They didn't give it to us in July. They gave it to us in December. And it was insulting. And so I think I certainly at the table, forcefully explained. I did not say anything about any of the people on the university's side of the bargaining table. I told them that we found this to be an insult and that we would like to know how they would explain this to our membership. What would you say to our members when they look at an 8.5% raise over 4 years, when they're seeing other unions win historic gains in their raises around the country right now? How would you want to explain this insulting offer to our membership? And their bargaining team couldn't take that kind of forceful response. And they got very upset and they walked out of the room. They demanded a caucus and then they said they were not going to come back. And eventually they did come back. And then they scolded us for treating them badly. That's what happened. And, for them, saying that your offer is insulting is scolding, not the fact that they're giving an offer that people can't live off of. That's not insulting, right? It's not insulting that we all worked through the pandemic and kept this university running, and they've waited 6 months to give us a response, and that response isn't a living wage for our grad workers. That's not what's insulting. What's insulting is that we said it's an insulting offer. It's like gaslighting. That's what they did yesterday.
But it's insane that they went from having me explain why, what a living wage is and why we need it, and then they were suddenly so offended.
Also, it's unusual for them to caucus after presenting their own proposal. Typically, you caucus when the other side presents something to you so that you can discuss it amongst yourselves. So it's quite odd that they decided they immediately needed to caucus right after their own proposal. And this wasted actually quite a bit of time because they were in caucus for 45 minutes when we just had to sit there and wait for them. After we had this historic action earlier in the day, this is when they were offended in the context of us having thousands of people out among our campuses.
Yeah, right. Because there was a turn. It felt to me like there was a turn at one point in the meeting. So when they came back in the session, what was discussed for the rest of the session?
Well, we were told that we shouldn't hurt their feelings. That's what they first said. I don't know if somebody else wants to get into the disciplinary article.
So the other topic that we discussed after they came back from caucus, which we only had a little bit of time left in the bargaining session, was another proposal that they had given to us in the previous session that has to do with expanding management's ability to impose discipline. So they'd given us this proposal that would give them the ability to suspend a worker, either a faculty member or a TAGA, to suspend them without pay for up to 6 weeks. And of course, we were very concerned about this, and especially because the way that it is framed would make it so that they could dismiss them for pretty much any reason. So the language is very broad, very general, and of course, this this is, I think, offensive to us. And, again, coming on the heels of us having these actions and this extremely low wage offer from them. So, of course, we had some concerns and we had rejected their proposal. And they again seemed, I guess, insulted that we had rejected it and wanted to know why. And when we explained our concerns, they said that they needed this kind of flexibility. And yeah.
They needed to be easier for them to fire us and punish us when need be. Can you talk a little bit too about the fact that kind of the way that the disciplinary proposal is written would also essentially go against some of the major protections of tenure. So it's not just that it would make those of us who are already kind of contingent or at-risk workers in some ways even more so, but that people who have typically expected there to be more protections based on their job description would suddenly be subject to more flexible firing permissions by the university.
Yes, that's exactly right. I mean, that's the other part of this, is not only the fact that they would be able to suspend people without pay for this time period, but that potentially this could be used to oust people from the university. Certainly, we could see them using this as a way to send someone a message that they're not welcome at the university anymore, that they want them to leave. And this could be a way that they basically push someone out of the university if they determine someone is a problem for whatever reason, maybe something that they post on social media or something that they teach in their class. So that's the other reason that we really did not see this proposal as something that we would consider, is why would we agree to a proposal that would make it easier for them to fire our own members?
And at that point, we sort of closed up the meeting because we had only had a few minutes left, really, right, to talk after they had been gone for so long in their caucus. And we're meeting next week on the 13th of December, which would be one of our larger sessions. And Todd, do you want to talk a little bit about what the plan is for next week's session?
Yeah, in using our contract to build a more just university, both in the communities where we work and with the students that we serve or teach and research with. So it's arguing for Rutgers into a rent freeze for the life of this contract, which would both have a really stabilizing effect for our students, undergrads, grads, and postdocs, and in particular international students, who many are housing insecure at certain moments and or food insecure, and it's important for them. But also Rutgers is the biggest landlord, certainly in New Brunswick. And if we bring down the rent of Rutgers properties, it will bring down the rents across the market. And we are in a city that's majority Latinx, Spanish speaking, and folks have massive rents. We did a survey of 300 people this summer, and the biggest problem they're facing is skyrocketing rents that don't keep pace with their wages. And so we are asking, first and foremost, there for Rutgers to institute a rent freeze. We're also asking Rutgers to establish what we're calling an excluded workers fund. There's been a ton of workers across the state, but particularly in New Brunswick, that worked for us, with us, served us through the pandemic in all sorts of ways, helped us continue to live our lives, who got no pandemic relief. And they have done untold things for the New Brunswick community, certainly. And we want Rutgers to establish a fund that these communities can administer for support. Again, folks are suffering. And this was also a massive thing that came out of the survey we did. Again, we knocked on 300 doors this summer. And these were the major results were around housing and around people just not having resources during the pandemic, and to this day. And then the last demand is for, particularly for our undergrads, but for all our students, which is Rutgers, if you get a bill, maybe you're late in returning a library book, or you got a parking ticket, Rutgers has a practice where, one, they don't allow you to register classes or get your diploma. And two, when you graduate, they sell it to a third-party collection agency. This is immoral and unethical. There's a bill in the New Jersey legislature to stop Rutgers from doing this, and other public and private universities, and we're demanding Rutgers stop it. We're demanding, one, that they should just cancel these student fines and fees. Two, If they don't do that, they must stop blocking students in registering or getting diplomas. And 3, certainly they can't sell it to third-party collection agencies. And I'll just add on that note that we had worked with a partner to bring Rutgers $50,000 to $100,000 to buy off student internal fines and fees for free. It was going to be a donor giving the money to Rutgers for these students. Rutgers rejected that money. Completely unethical. And so next week, we have invited students and community members to come to the bargaining session and to present these demands to management. And during the Board of Governors, members of the organization New Labor, which is a worker center in New Brunswick, Newark, and Lakewood, and Cosecha, which is an immigrant rights organization, came to the Board of Governors. They explained these demands. They invited President Holloway to December 13th to join us. Also, distinguished Professor Juan Gonzalez, also a very well-known journalist, did the same thing. We think President Holloway should come and he should talk about these critical concerns, because outside of our contract, there's no way for the community and students to really lift this up and have a powerful conversation about these issues with Rutgers administration. So we want to use our contract to leverage this.
Great. I think that's really important. And I appreciate you outlining some of what's going on with bargaining for the common good. I know I have students who have been housing insecure. I have students who have needed to avail themselves of resources like food pantries while they're struggling to pay housing costs to the university where they are currently students, which is a wild mess of a situation and shouldn't be acceptable under any terms. So thank you. And I hope people come. I also just wanted to let folks know who are listening that we will be releasing, if we haven't already by the time you're seeing this or listening to this, we will have statements from the folks from Cosecha and also from Juan Gonzalez that were spoken in the BOG available so that you can see what they were speaking on in that moment. Hopefully we will get to have that bargaining session next week. It would be good to get to hear from people directly too. And should we get to, we of course will have an update here where we will talk to people who are in attendance in that session. Did you guys have anything you wanted to add before we wrap?
Well, I just wanted to say the other issue that we're facing is about bargaining dates. We brought up to them that we had requested dates for the postdoc unit to bargain their contract. We had requested that back in the spring, and they have ignored that request and not granted those dates. So this has been an ongoing issue with trying to even have more times to meet with management, because they have insisted that all of our units bargain separately. We had proposed to join all of our units and have one common bargaining table, which would, of course, make it much easier to schedule bargaining. And since we have so many overlapping issues, we could consolidate those into one contract. But they have denied us that, and they have also refused to schedule dates for us. So we are still waiting for the postdoc unit to have bargaining dates. And we are also trying to have dates set up for the winter and summer instructors to also bargain their contract. So that's another issue, is this is really kind of one of our last bargaining sessions for the year. We don't have more scheduled at this time. And this is the progress that we've managed to make in all of these months, is, to get this salary proposal from them. So the pace of bargaining has been very slow, not through any fault of our own, as we have been trying to offer them many dates, but specifically because they've been trying to slow down this process.
And then, of course, only offering increased punitive measures and a really unacceptable economic deal in response to ours, which was reasonable to begin with. And I just wanted to say how amazing it was to get to see so many people out on December 6th, speaking about what their concerns were and why they support the contract, despite the fact that it was raining. We had so many people present. And one of my favorite moments was Jonathan Holloway trying really hard in the BOG to recap some of the achievements of our students, unable to do it because he couldn't gather his thoughts because he could hear everyone outside so loudly chanting. And it was a great moment. So just, big props to everybody for everything they did and being out in the rain and doing that for everybody. It was a good moment. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming and for talking about that. And I